Hello, mages and misfits. My name is TBSkyN, and the first issue of the Lux comic has been released today, at least on Comixology. It's going to be on the universe, I think, in a few hours as I'm recording this. It might already be up there by the time this video goes live, so, go and have a look. This is the second part of the collaboration between Marvel and Riot Games in order to create comics in the League of Legends universe. The first part of that collaboration, of course, was Ash Warmother, an excellent comic which you should go and read. So, the thrust of this comic is basically, it sets up the events that happened up to the release of Sylas. Both his release into the game, but also his release from Demacia prison, where he started the Mage Rebellion, which seems to be the major thrust of the storylines that are going to be dominating a lot of the Demacian storylines going forward. So this is sort of the setup for that, as well as an exploration of Lux, Garen, and Sylas as characters, and their weird three-way relationship where Lux is torn between the magic that's inside her, that she kind of can't get rid of, and she wants to learn to control, which is why she comes to Sylas, and then her brother, who is an agent of the Demacian justice system, big air quotes around justice, who like to suppress mages and kill them and do terrible things to them, and Lux being understandably kind of scared of that. And, yeah, before we get into the full discussion of the comic, though, let's have a look at the credits. The writer of this comic is John O'Brien. The penciler is... John O'Brien, I believe, is a full-time writer, by the way. The penciler, and primary artist, therefore, is Billy Tan of Tan Comics. Now, Billy Tan is a guy who's been around in the comic book industry for a good long while now. He's done a whole bunch of work with Marvel and Image Comics. He's done some work on Witchblade and a whole bunch of work on various X-Men comics, I do believe. So, like, this is an old hand. This is an experienced artist. He's joined by inker and colorists Haining and Gatson of Tan Comics, which I think is Billy Tan's comic book collective or agency or group or something along those lines. They seem to work as a team. Anyway, the letterer is John Rothschild, the editor at Riot Games is Mary Gumport, the editor at Marvel is Mark Basso, and there's special thanks to Ellie Pyle, the former main editor of comics at Riot Games, who has since left the company. So, as I said, the main thrust of the story is about Sylas breaking free from prison, causing all kinds of devastation, using Lux's magic. He steals her magic and uses it to just kind of blast everything to pieces like a bastard. And Lux essentially detailing the story of how it came to this, how things got to this point. And the writing in this comic is pretty damn strong, actually. Like, there's some really decent dialogue going on. There's a lot of good introspection. It doesn't waste a lot of time. It moves on with its action pretty quickly. We get to where we need to go by the end of the comic fairly efficiently. We understand the mindsets and the motivations of the people involved. We know why Garen acts the way he does. We understand why Lux makes the decisions that she does, which ultimately turn out to be disastrous. So the writing is pretty strong, and certainly, especially the early pages of this comic, are, from an artistic perspective, also really damn good. Billy Tan and his team are doing really fantastic work, especially on these two first pages, where they do this little clever move of showing the city in ruins, which is the present day, air quotes, of the comic's narrative after Sylas has escaped. And then jumping back to the beginning of the whole thing weeks ago by using the exact same scene but rendering it in two different contexts and two different color languages, which is very effective. Like, that's just good craft. And the first few pages of the comic are also just generally pretty darn good. There's good expressiveness, there's good acting on the characters, the compositions of the panels are really quite excellent. And Garen especially gets a fantastic action scene near the start here, as he confronts a mage who's trying to escape from the mage seekers, which are essentially like the Gestapo of Demacia that go around arresting mages and imprisoning them for no other reason except that they can do magic, which, is not great. And this panel in particular has a really good, like, where you can see, like, the trail of magic is being used to communicate the action of what she's doing with her spell, knocking Garen over and so forth. And Garen himself gets a really great action panel here. Like, this is a really well-composed bit of action, I think, because Garen dominates this entire page. Like, his form just is not only this lopsided panel and the speed lines makes it so that he's thundering into our space. He's overlapping all the panels. He's thundering down from above like, vengeance from the sky. Which is exactly the feeling that you get for the poor mage. She smashes this entire stone bridge through nothing but sheer force of power, and sends her tumbling down to the streets below, the poor girl. Like, this is a really well-composed action shot. It works really well. It really communicates the power of Garen's attack. The quality doesn't stay, though. there's a lot of reasons why when you read a comic, especially when it's a comic from like the big comic publishers like Marvel and DC, why the artwork in a comic might not always be consistent and sometimes not be very good. And the primary reason, as far as I know, is usually time constraints. Like usually it's a time pressure. The artist has to meet a deadline, and at some point, like, they have to, okay, we have to just finish this goddamn thing quickly and move on. And we can't do a second pass or a third pass, and we can't really fix a lot of mistakes. We just have to go because this thing has a deadline and needs to be out. And like, it's not a super well-paid job to be a comic artist in the comic industry these days. It's not super well-paid. There's a lot of work. You often have to take on multiple projects at the same time in order to make ends meet, and so oftentimes you get comics where like certain parts of the artwork are just not great because the artists have not had time to go over it, and because of the deadline, the editors have not really had time to push them to fix mistakes and go. Like, so there's lots of reasons and production pressures and reasons that aren't really about the artist's skill that can affect the quality of a comic as it comes out in the end. And I'm gonna choose to believe that that's what happened over the course of this comic, because steadily, as we go through the comic more and more, the quality of the artwork starts to fall apart a little bit until we get to here. We're going to be spending quite a bit of time talking about this page because, oh boy, okay. I'm not going to enjoy doing this very much, but this page is terrible. Like, oh my god, it's so bad. And it's so below quality for what you would expect from a collaboration between Riot Games, which has all of the money, and Marvel, which has, like, all of the talent. This page, man, like, when I was reading this comic for the first time, throughout most of it, I was, like, on board with it. I wasn't really being that critical of it, because, like, oh yeah, there's just a few mistakes, like, a few nitpicks here and there, whatever. Doesn't matter, the quality of the comic itself is still good. But then I got to this final page, and it just... when I saw it, my critical eye went into overdrive immediately. Like, I just could not suspend disbelief anymore. And I turned into a monster. I'm not gonna be a pleasant person, as we talk about this final panel here, because it's just not good. It's just really bad. It's just really bad. So, why is it bad? Well, oh god, where do you start? The coloring isn't great. The artwork isn't particularly compelling. The poses and the acting are not adequate to the scene at all. The composition of the shot is absolutely terrible, and the visual storytelling is... I don't even know what the hell they were trying to do. So, this scene between Lux and Sylas is their first encounter. Like, this is the first moment that they meet each other, and Sylas reveals, almost immediately, that he knows Lux is a mage. He knows she has magic, and this is the one thing Lux has been most terrified of her entire life, is that someone would find out her secret. She's come here hoping to get some information out of Sylas on how to control magic. Like, she was hoping to be the clever one, to be smart, to interrogate him and get information from him, but instantly he reveals that he knows too much, that he's smart, that he's clever, that he can manipulate her. Immediately he takes control of the situation. Essentially, this is the scene from Silence of the Lambs, when Clarice confronts Hannibal Lecter for the first time. Like, I ate his liver with the fava beans and a nice Chianti. Like, that scene, right? That's what's going on here. We have the young, naive ingenue confronting the worldly, dangerous, manipulative serial killer. How did it go this goddamn wrong? Hey, sorry to interrupt, but since this is a video promoting one of Riot's commercial products, I thought it would be appropriate to annoy all of you by jumping in with a little reminder. Riot Games' current COO, Scott Gelb, has a long history of physically harassing his employees by, among other things, touching their genitals and farting on their faces. For this, he was given a slap on the wrist and retains his position and his high salary, and he has suffered no significant punishment or consequences. Also, some current and former employees of Riot have sued the company for the sexism and harassment that Riot failed to stop from happening, and Riot has responded to that lawsuit by trying to force them into private arbitration instead of having a public lawsuit out in the open. This in spite of the company having loudly and publicly committed to transparency and openness. This caused around 200 of the company's employees, including senior staff, to stage a full-on walkout this Monday, for which they have all of my solidarity. Riot's upper management have repeatedly proven themselves to be the same slimy snake bastards that run EA and Activision, and I encourage everyone to support Riot's staff in trying to fight back against their garbage. Okay, so let's start with the composition, because that's really the fundamental problem. If the composition was better, all the rest of it wouldn't matter so much. When it comes to portraying power, we talked about this with the Garen panel, right? Garen, in this particular page, Comixology, please don't start lagging on me now, is powerful. He's strong in this page because he's dominating it. He takes up almost half of the page's space. He overlaps the other panel. He is invading our literal space as readers. It looks like he's coming towards us. He's flying down from above. He's an image of power crashing down like God's justice itself from above, right? He's dominating. He's at the top and he's to the right, which in both in film language and in comic language is like the simplest way to establish that a character is dominant over a scene, is to put them above everything else and to the right. Now take a look at how the last page is composed. Where is Sylas in the scene? Well, he's sort of below Lux, like her head height is above his, and he's smaller than her, and he's not really dominant in the frame, and much of him is blocked away by this clear and obvious barrier. And Lux is bigger than him, and he's not doing anything. He's not moving, he's not turning, he's not acting in any way that would make him seem like feasibly a physical threat to anything. That's the primary problem, is like if they had framed this shot so that Lux was below his eye height, like move the camera down a bit so that we're seeing things like from down here, like somewhere near Lux's hips, and we're looking up at him so that he's in the top right, like he's dominating the page, that he's bigger than her. We're looking at him from below because he's above, he's dominating his control. That would go a long way to help, but it just gets worse from there, because look at what's happening in the scene. Lux is supposed to be reacting, she's running away from him, right? That's what this pose is supposed to communicate, is that Lux is so scared of him that she's turned around and she's running away. Except that makes no goddamn sense whatsoever, because in the previous panels, as is established, they lock the door behind her. Because he's the most dangerous criminal in Demacia, they're not going to risk any goddamn thing. They lock the door behind her. They are alone in an enclosed space from which there is no escape. And when Sylas scares her here, Lux doesn't turn around to run away. She drops the torch and backs off. She goes backwards, because that's what you do when you're confronted with something dangerous in front of you, is you back away. You don't turn around and run when you know the door behind you is completely closed. You back away until you have your back against the wall so that you're cornered. That's how that power relationship is supposed to go. So what the hell is she doing turning her back on him? What's she doing turning her back on him? And what is this pose? What is this? She's not... Her center of gravity is somewhere over here, right? Like the majority of her mass is somewhere over here. So what it looks like she's doing is she's toppling. Like she's just falling over for some reason. Now, I think because one leg is in front of the other, it's supposed to show that she's like running away from him. And maybe that could work. Like maybe it could work to have Lux running into the page, like running towards the reader as though she's frightened, because she's frightened of Sylas. Like that could be a way to project his power, but she's not really doing that. She's not actually running away from him. She's not really moving at all. In fact, what she's doing is she's running away and turning back towards him at the same time, which makes a really awkward pose where she can't move towards us with any conviction, but she also can't act or emote towards him with any conviction, because look where her eye line is, right? Sylas he's behind her. Like he's like 10 feet behind her, a good distance away. Where the hell is she looking? Her eye line is over here. Like she's looking at something over to the side over here. She's not looking at him. She's not looking back at him trying to ascertain where the hell is he? What's he doing? No, she's just kind of staring off to the side for whatever reason. As though Sylas had snuck up on her from behind and she's in the process of turning around to face him, which makes no sense whatsoever. Then there's her expression, which I don't even... What's this expression? Is this fear? I don't think this is fear. This is not fear. She's got her mouth open, like, like she's just spotted a bird or a rabbit or something and she's surprised by it. Her eyes are half-lidded, almost closed, in fact. They're not opened wide in terror. Her pupils are just the normal size, which again does not communicate fear. Her eyebrows aren't doing any goddamn thing to emote or express her feelings whatsoever. They're completely neutral. They're not screwed up, they're not scrunched, they're not raised, they're not doing anything. Her face is completely impassive when she's supposed to be terrified of this frightening serial killer who has just figured out her deepest, darkest, most dangerous secret. So that doesn't work at all. Then there's the lighting in the whole scene, which is a thing that starts on the previous page, where this first panel of this sequence is actually really good. I really like this panel. This is a really good panel because Lux is in two minds. In the whole time she's been in the archives and sort of sneaking to read these books and trying to get into meet Sylas, she's been in two minds. On the one hand, she's fascinated and she's curious, but on the other hand, she's also terrified. This is a really effective way to show that. Half of her face is lit up, the other half is in shadow, which indicates both that Lux doesn't quite know what she's doing, she doesn't quite understand herself, that she's in two minds, and that she's being duplicitous, she's being deceptive, she's two-faced. All of that works really well, and the juxtaposition of the bright white eye against the blackness of her face gives a really nice contrast that makes her look a little bit unsettling and unnerving as she enters this unsettling and unnerving space. That works really well. But the colorist, I don't think it's the penciler's fault in this case. The colorist doesn't seem to have gotten the memo. The colorist doesn't seem to have understood what this scene is about, because the colorist keeps trying to add this soft shading that doesn't fit the scene at all. You can see here, like, there's something clever being established here with the light source is with Lux right now, when she is still in control, relatively, of the scene. She has the light, she has the power over the scene and the situation. Then, as she loses control of the scene, she drops the light, Sylas grabs the torch, now he has it on the inside of the cell. But look at the contrast between these two scenes. Here, Lux has the light on the outside of the cell, and it casts this harsh, sharp light that just kind of that cuts the entire scene into pieces and renders the iron bars between her and Sylas in sharp relief, casting these strong shadows that really give this distinctive feeling to the panel, right? Watch what happens when Sylas gets a hold of the torch. What is this? Where's all that drama? Where's all that color? Where's all that contrast? Where's all that this idea of this circle of fire, this circle of light, that these two people are entering like an arena to duel with each other, and the power balance and the dynamics shifting back and forth between them. This was being set up right here by the inker, who was like very careful to cast all of this in harsh, dark shadows, but then the colorist doesn't seem to get the memo, because when Sylas has the torch, when he has the light, all of a sudden there's all this soft ambient light all over the scene. You can see it right here, like for instance on her skirt thing that she's got going on here. All this soft ambient light bloom thing going on. And the bars, which were supposed to be these big, black, dark, imposing things that are kind of cutting the scene to ribbons, are just these soft shaded sort of metal solid bars that, rather than presenting some kind of dangerous shadow being cast over Lux, like the light is on the other side of the bars, these things should be casting shadows over her. The shadows should be cutting her apart because she's falling apart, because he's deconstructing her, because he has control over the scene. But no, these are just big, solid iron bars presenting a strong barrier between Lux and Sylas, which communicates to us, the reader, that she is completely safe from him. These big, thick iron bars are in the way. Rather than using them as dangerous shadows, they're a clear and present barrier, eliminating any sense of physical threat from Lux and Sylas, which is further exacerbating the fact that Sylas is smaller than her, that he's really far away from her, and that he's not doing anything. What should be happening in this scene is much like in the scene between Hannibal Lecter and Clarice in Silence of the Lambs. He should be leaning forward. He should be invading her space. He should be doing what Garen is doing in this action shot right here. He should be coming into the frame. He should be making us uncomfortable. He should be invading the space. He should be dominating the space, because that's how you establish the power dynamic between these two characters. The two most important characters in the whole story is by showing that he has control over her. He has control over the situation. He has control over what's going on. He's scaring her. And there's all kinds of ways you could do this. You could have a fisheye lens effect that kind of distorts the iron bars so that it kind of looks like they're sliding apart, that they're removing themselves out of the way, that they're bursting with the power of Sylas's presence. You could have the shot from the lower down. You could have him dominating the scene. You could have him reaching out to her. Like, just extending a hand to her in, like, a gesture that should be friendly, but which becomes incredibly creepy when he's dominating the scene the way that he's supposed to do. No, none of that. No acting, no emoting, no sense. Why is she turning her back on him, and why isn't she turning her back on him? Why is she making this pose? Why is she toppling over? Why is there soft shading on the side of her hair, but hard shading on the side of her face? Why is there hard shading on the side of her armor, but no hard shading anywhere near her skirt or her legs? Why does Sylas have hard shaded abs and a hard shaded face, but soft shading on the rest of him? It's a train wreck. And I know, from the perspective of probably every other person on the planet, I am massively overreacting to one panel that just kind of doesn't work. But the thing that happened here is I saw this panel, and I went back and read the rest of the comic again, and the whole thing fell apart for me. I had been able to suspend my disbelief. I had been able to keep my critical eye in check for the majority of it. But then I go back, and then there's this panel where Lux is told that is Sylas of Dreckborn, the most dangerous criminal in the entire kingdom, serial killer, the most dangerous mage you will ever meet in your life. How does Lux react to this information? Surprised Pikachu face. That's what this is. Oh, thank you very much for your patronage, person who just pledged to me on Patreon. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Pop-Up, for telling everyone that. Surprised Pikachu face. Oh, it's a serial killer. Oh, like, what's that? Where's her expression? What's going on here? And then as she decides, I need to see him, right? She's deciding that she needs to go and see this most dangerous serial killer in the entire world. Is she looking at the door? Is she looking towards her goal? No, she's looking... I don't know where she's looking. She's looking out at the reader with the single most expressionless face I have ever seen in my life. And she's picked up the torch now, right? The torch, this important symbol of power and control that's going to come into play in the next couple of scenes. But where is that hard shadow? Like, you could have started that hard shadow thing, that two-faced thing. That could have started right here, and it should have, because she's picked up the torch and it's close to her face now. So why not? I don't know. Why didn't they do that? Who knows? I don't know. And here again, the expressions. And it's especially the latter half of the comic that just... What is this expression? She's witnessing essentially a prisoner being force-fed some kind of magic potion to take away her magic, right? That's what's going on here. Where's her expression? Well, what are her eyes doing? What's her eyebrows doing? And here again, back to complete expressionlessness. None whatsoever. And it's not like if the other characters were seeing her from the front, right? If they were looking at her from the front, then there would be a reason for her to make a point of hiding her expression, of hiding her reaction. But it's not. She has obvious reactions that are just badly drawn, and then she has absolutely no reaction when she should have one. And then there's times when just... What's this pose? Like, she's heading downstairs, right? She's following this guy down the stairs. What's her body doing? Like, you go and try and walk down some stairs right now and tell me what you do with your body. First of all, you spread your weight out. You spread your legs out a little bit in order to make sure that you're stable and you're planted and you're not going to fall in your face down the entire stairs. You also don't hold your arms straight down at your sides at all time for no reason, because again, you use them for balance. You're also not completely straightened up like that. You tend to hunch over a little bit when you're going downstairs, in fact, because you're looking down to see where you're going, where you're putting your feet. This pose is completely stiff and lifeless. Why is that there? Who can say? And it's something that happens a number of times in this comic, especially with Lux, where, like, again here, what's her body doing? Is she walking forward? Is she leaning over? I don't know. It's not really clear to anyone what's happening here. And then there's this one in particular that's really egregious. It's this one. Like, what? Here, she's just been given access to these dangerous archives full of magical artifacts. She's really tense. She's keeping up a deception. She's terrified. She's trying her hardest to blend in, and she's not doing a great job of it, but everyone's kind of ignoring it because she's a crown guard and she has authority. The point here is an insecure young girl trying to fool her way through things and kind of only managing it because of her privilege, which is supposed to demonstrate that she's naive, that she's easily manipulated, and she's been cuddled and protected her whole life. No acting, though. She's just got her arms down by her side for no reason, and her legs aren't moving, and she's just kind of staring ahead blankly with this weird nun expression that's just... Where's the acting? And there was acting in the first couple of pages of the book. There was really good acting, in fact. Like, really solid. Especially this here with Garen and Lux together. We can see she's kind of struggling to keep his weight up. And here with their interactions on horseback, we can kind of see Lux, she's emoting. She's doing stuff with her body to show off what's happening to her. And this pose right here, this action pose is so badass. Like, this whole panel works so well. Where did all of that go in the later parts of the comic? I don't know. It just vanished. It just went away, and I can't enjoy it anymore. That's really what happened to me, is I reached that last page, and my switch got flipped. And I can't enjoy this comic anymore because I just see all the little nitpicks that shouldn't bother me that much, which have just started to bother me. For example, I know Lux's boob plate is a part of her base character design, and it's a stupid part of her character design. I don't like it. It doesn't make any sense. Boob plate is a character design choice you make when you have a character in plate armor of some kind, and you need to show, hey, this character has feminine shapes, like they have breasts underneath there. They are feminine. Lux doesn't need that because she's wearing spandex and a skirt, and she's got long blonde hair, and she wears makeup. She doesn't need that. But the boob socks are here, and the artist, for whatever reason, doesn't seem able to figure out what the hell they want to do with them. For example, here, they kind of forget the lower half of her whole chest plate. It just isn't there. They just colored it in black as though it was a shadow instead of being, you know, an actual piece of clothing that has reflections. Then it has reflections, but then the boob things, instead of being like part of the chest plate that's shaped around her chest, they're just these weird teardrops that are just kind of bolted on to the front of the chest plate. And then there's this panel right here where they seem to forget that the chest plate is made of metal. It's all of a sudden it's made of the same cloth that her skirt and her cape is made of, and she's just got these two weird metal boob socks hanging off the front of her chest for no reason. And I don't understand how this happened, how it came to this. Where, like, and all these little mistakes that I wouldn't normally have noticed, and all these little annoyances, they just start to mount up. And then there's the moment that kind of broke me. What? Okay, so this lady is their aunt. She's her aunt, the Aunt Tiana of the Crown Guard family. The whole point of this scene is Garen is revealing to us, the reader. Yes, okay, thank you, email client, for annoying me. Is revealing to us, the reader, he knows Lux has magic. He knows she's a mage. He's pretending not to see it so he can try and protect her. Aunt Tiana is trying to give him some advice to figure out how are they going to solve that problem, but in the process of that, she's also manipulating Garen in order to gain political advantages for the Crown Guard family. That's the whole thrust of this scene. What she suggests is Lux should be married to Prince Jarvan so she can become the Queen of Demacia, which means that nobody could ever possibly scrutinize her for being a mage, which means she would be safe forever, with the side benefit being, of course, that the Crown Guard family becomes ever closer to power. Tiana is manipulating Garen because Tiana is a hard-edged, dangerous, military, no-nonsense, sensible, cold-hearted bitch of a queen of Demacia. And we've seen her, I think she's shown up in another story before, where she's been established to be a complete freaking hard-ass, and most of her outfit does a really good job of establishing this. She's got these big, imposing shoulder plates going on. She's got this chest plate and this sharp motif of these sharp, you know, points of her cape that cast her into this shape of a dangerous woman, basically. And these, you know, these high dangerous cheekbones and this callous expression thing going on. What the hell is she wearing on her goddamn feet? What is this? Look, fantasy. It's fantasy art, and we're in fantasy universe, and Fiora wears heels as well, and it's all kind of silly, and I know it's there, and Kai'Sa wears heels for some stupid reason, and so does Syra for no goddamn apparent. I know it's a thing, right? But the whole point of this character is that she's a no-nonsense Demacian hard-ass who primarily cares about political gains and protecting the reputation of the Crown Guard family, gaining advantages for herself, yada, yada, yada. She's a martial, militaristic leader with a manipulative streak. And they... What? Just give her boots? Just give her actual, you know, boots that she could walk in? What? How... Her feet are aligned in the same general direction as her shins. She's standing on tiptoe right now in giant stripper stiletto heels, and there's nothing wrong with stripper heels. There's nothing wrong with giving a character stiletto heels and like really high, silly boots and stuff like that if it's appropriate to the character design. Evelyn would look great in something like this. Like, you could put Miss Fortune's old character design into that, and they would look fine because she's a stripper character design. It's fine. Caitlyn, sure, because she's also running around in a stripper outfit, whatever. But it's so incongruous with everything else that the visual language of this scene is telling us about this character. These boots are just such a stupid character design decision. And again, if it hadn't been for that last panel setting me off, getting me going on my little rant tour de force here, I probably wouldn't have cared that much about the stiletto heels. I'd just have gone, oh yeah, that's a silly character design thing, who cares? But because the art got worse over the course of the comic, because the goddamn boot plates were so inconsistent and weird, because the expressions became so stiff and so bad, because the visual storytelling started failing so hard, I can't forgive this comic anymore. Like, this broke me. This broke my suspension of disbelief. This is not up to snuff. Like, this is not... Marvel has all of the talent. Like, they have access to all of it. They could have any... Like, they could give the artists the time they need to polish the artwork up. They could assign them an editor who's willing to push the artists to do better and to really be critical in assessing their work. They have the resources to do that. They have the talent to do that. And Riot has the money to pay for it. I don't understand. After the Ash Warmother comic, which was so damn good, like, which had such a consistent level of quality and such a consistent level of expression and storytelling throughout the whole thing, how we went from that to this, I don't get it. And it's not good enough. It's just not good enough. This is bad. This is a bit of a failure. This is a bit of a false start for the Lux comic, I think. It just, for me at least. I know other people are not going to be as charged up about this as I am. Other people are not going to find it nearly as annoying, and I accept that, and that's okay. And if you don't find it as annoying as I do, that doesn't mean you're stupid or bad or that you're enjoying comics wrong or whatever. But these are just the reasons why I completely lost my sympathy for the comic. Like, I lost my willingness to engage when this panel came up and all the other little things came into focus for me. All the other little things that had been niggling at me with this absolutely terrible failure of visual storytelling. I don't really enjoy doing videos like this. I really don't. I don't enjoy tearing into artists' artwork because I know how hard it is to do this stuff for a living. I know how much pressure there is. I know how much time pressure, how much money pressure there is, how hard it is to juggle all the goddamn work you have, how hard it can be to find editors who are, like, able to work with you on a consistent level to make sure that, you know, everything works out, and it's impossible to get extensions. I know all the challenges. I know how difficult it can be. And I'm not saying at any point that the artists behind this are bad at their job. I'm saying in this particular instance, they did a bad job. Like, the work declined, it degraded, and it became bad at the end. But it's not because they're bad at their job, it's because, for whatever reason, for whatever external reasons that were happening, they couldn't deliver this thing to the full extent of their talent and potential at the end. And that's a real pity and a shame. God, I hope the next issue is better. By the way, this is kinky, right? Like, that's what this is. This is kink. I don't know how far they're gonna go with that, but, well, they're certainly implying it. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, well, you've probably enjoyed it more than I've enjoyed making it, because I really genuinely don't like getting shitty like this, but for this comic, I had to. Like button, comment button, subscribe button, leave a comment down below. Bell icon. Yes, bell icon is important, otherwise YouTube just won't show you my videos sometimes, which is a stupid thing that YouTube... You have to press 2 buttons to be subscribed now. That's a thing. You can also, if you want to support this channel and the work that I do, well, Patreon is an option for that. You can head on over there and sign up for a monthly subscription of anything. If you have $1, I'd be grateful to receive it. If you don't want to do a monthly subscription thing, then you can head down into the description where you can find a couple of my tip jars where you can do a one-time direct donation to say, hey, good job getting really angry at a video game comic about a fantasy girl who has a chat with a guy in a prison cell that you didn't like. Good job about that. Woohoo! Then I'd be very grateful to receive it. And as I say at the end of my videos, $1 or $2 can mean thousands and thousands of page views for an artist who's trying to get by on ad revenue. It can mean thousands of views to a YouTuber. So whether it's me or it's someone else, if you have a content creator whose work you enjoy, please consider supporting them with whatever you're able to give, because it matters a lot more than you think. Of course, if you can't or you just don't want to, I completely understand that as well. I consider any support I get a gift, not any kind of an obligation, and I'm just happy that you've watched the video this far. If you haven't enjoyed this video, honestly, I don't blame you that much, because I don't like doing these teardowns, but there's a dislike button down below with which you can express your discontent to YouTube. And I'm a little bit too worked up right now to come up with a compelling dislike button, so let's just say the dislike button is a prisoner in a cell of its own mind, or something dark and scary like that. And let's say I came up with a cool story. And not a bad one. Have a good day. Oh, Lord.